What is going on? Welcome back to the Simple Line Moto. In this episode, we're going to clean up the frame, and we're going to start getting everything ready for a under tray for the bike, where all the electronics are going to sit. I'm going to make a nice battery box for the lithium battery I'm planning on using. So we're going to be cleaning up a couple of these tabs and cleaning up this section, cutting this out, planning on squaring it off so we have a nice area for the under tray to mount to. And we're also going to be cleaning up these the frame here and getting these brackets off, because I'm not going to be using them for the final build. So we're going to set you guys down and let's get started cutting. Not sure if you can see, but there's still a part that I can get all grinded down, but the bracket itself, that's off. So, and then just gotta grind these down, gotta grind all this down, cut into here, and then this is where the helmet holder was, as well as the latch for the seat. So I wanted to cut that off, clean up the frame, and then we're gonna go with the flap disc, clean all the surface off, and get everything smooth. So we'll get going on that, but cutting the hard parts done. cut those tabs off. We cut the bracket off the front. And after that, what I did was went with the flap disc and cleaned up the surface a bit. It's still not perfect, but we're gonna dial that in. And then I ended up chopping out a piece that was here that was used for the air box. So I cut that out, and there's a couple holes here that I'm gonna fill in. And there's this seam that I'm gonna have get welded, and we're gonna have to fill in these holes in the frame, and then kind of cleaned up here, and we have to weld a couple spots just to fill it in, make the frame feel smooth, and then we can get started on the battery tray. That's one thing I'm gonna start working on off camera, and kind of get a concept and a shape that I like, that will look good and fit all the components. What I ended up doing was finding a STL file of a MotoGadget, and what this allows me to do without having to purchase the MotoGadget yet is kind of get a rough idea for location where I want everything to fit. So I'm planning on running a lithium battery for this setup. So what I was able to do is find a battery that I'm thinking about using. I was then able to pull dimensions off of Revival Cycle's website for the battery that I'm looking at. I was then able to hop into Fusion and design a battery of the sizes and proportions of the battery I'm looking at. So this will allow me to take that model and then put it in the location I'm thinking of. So I can then design everything with the seat pan or electrical tray without needing the battery itself. I was able to also do that with the regular rectifier that I'm planning on running. Everything is being purchased off Revival Cycles, and so once we get those items ordered and we receive those, then essentially we won't have to design anything around them because we already have everything designed for them because of the models and the replica parts that we were able to make and 3D print, for example, the MotoGadget. So then we're not having to wait for those items to get here to design other aspects of the bike and keep the progress moving forward. That's what I did, and we're going to design that tray, under tray, whatever you want to call it, and we'll get a cool design. I'm thinking going from here, the smaller section, and then it'll be all under, all the way back to here. And the nice thing about having the models is since they're pretty much the same size as the actual unit itself, we can kind of see where they need to sit and how deep the tray needs to be to hold everything. So the biggest item that's going to be under here is the battery, of course. The battery is not the biggest compared to a lead acid, so that helps us out, but it's still gonna be below the frame, and with the opening here you'll be able to see it. So since you'll be able to see it, I want it to look good, so we're gonna start working on that progress. I'm gonna do that off camera and create a template and a design I like. So I'm not gonna bore you guys with any of that. But once I have a design I'm thinking of going with, then we can transfer that over to metal and make the under tray. Once I have the under tray made out of metal and cut out and shaped up, the plan is to then weld it onto the frame itself, and it'll kind of wrap around and then come up here. Since the MotoGadget and the battery is all going to be contained in there, what I'm going to do for the wiring is cut some holes and either print some grommets or source some online. So I'm going to start working on that template, and then I'll pick back up once I have a good idea of a design, and then we'll go from there. So you guys be patient, and we'll keep this progress going. All right, we're back out in the garage, working on the electrical tray for the XS500. Let me show you what I've been working on. So right now, this is kind of the rough idea of what I was thinking for the electrical tray. I'm gonna make a back cover, so this is all gonna be sealed in. So I have a design I like, and I think it'll work for my intentions and all the components that need to be under the seat. What I was able to do was cut out that piece of the bracket that was originally here. So I was able to trim that out and then weld in the seam here. I'm going to clean this up better. And then there's a couple holes right here. So we're able to weld in there. But that just needs to be grinded down and cleaned up a bit. So we're gonna work on that, and then we're going to be cutting the electrical tray out of a 16 gauge. So we're gonna try to bend that into the shape, and we're most likely going to be cutting it up into different pieces and welding the tray together. So I'm going to sit you guys down and get started on this. So a quick update, we were able to get the battery tray made. My brother came out to the garage and gave me a hand fabricating it and getting all the welds all done with it and bending all the metal. Like I said prior, it's 16 gauge metal. We're not super happy with how this one's turned out. So either we're gonna clean it up and run this tray, or I'm on the fence about getting maybe like 22 gauge or a higher gauge material, so it's a little bit easier to work with the tools that we have available, because we were actually just bending everything on the welding table we got, and we were able to make it work. The first bend was actually this one. We're able to bend it up, and then you can kind of see we did a little slice to make the bend easier, and the fitment on it is pretty good. We're going to tack it all in place and tap it back to the frame and then weld it. So either I could remake it out of a thinner gauge metal, and it'll still work as it should. It's just still gonna be sturdy for what it's gonna be intended for. So I kind of showed with the paper template, but I made a representation of the battery I'm planning to run, and I was able to find all the dimensions online. So this kind of takes its place for the mock-up. And essentially, the battery will be sitting here. You can see it's flush and sitting below the frame. So that's going to be super nice, tucked in there under the seat. And then with the MotoGadget, I was able to find this file online and print it. So either I'm thinking about positioning it somewhere here or tucking it up under the tank. I was able to put the tank on and see that where the unit will sit under the tank, there is a lot of room, so I don't have to worry about tucking in the wires and being cautious about how high the wires are coming up. I'm of course going to make the wires as clean as possible and organized, but with it sitting under the tank, I can kind of hide it better, and I think it'll be easier to run all the wires where I need them to go and just give a cleaner look. So there's not much that I'm going to be putting under the seat in this tray. The only thing I'm missing right now for the mock-up would be the starter solenoid. And I have one picked out that I'm planning on running, but I'm not sure on the overall dimensions of it. So I need to figure that out. But if I'm not able to make it fit under the seat for some reason, then I'm thinking about mounting it underneath, and it would be easier to run the wires there and whatnot. Also, I'm going to be running the regulator rectifier bolted underneath the tray. So either under here or under the battery itself, and then I could just run the wires up. So that's kind of where we're at. I didn't film much of the process because we just kind of got to work and knocked this one out. If we do plan on remaking it, I'll kind of bring you guys more along and show you what we do. So it's been a fun process. The bike's coming together, and slowly but surely we'll get there. But for now, I appreciate you guys tuning in, and have yourself a good day. Thank you.